Da da dun dun dun. Let's like. I should probably move closer just a little bit. It just looks like we have like an awkward amount of space.
You should almost be
Just
shoulders touch.
Sides on that.
I have only one side.
Oh, this is live.
Oh, we're live?
I think we're live
we
right
are
now.
Live. What do you know?
All right. Now let me make sure I can share my screen.
I have only one side.
I got the audio playing in here.
Oh, we're live?
I think we're live right now.
Anyone watching knows that I'm an idiot now with YouTube.
Let's see if the shared screen works, and then we'll just hop right into it. Boom. Infinity window.
Anyone watching?
All right. Now I'll turn myself down so we don't have feedback. All right. Fantastic. We have the clips and the cuts as well. We'll go ahead and continue our recording. Ready?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Welcome back to the Digital CEO podcast. We're going to cover the publishing basics for Facebook, specifically for small businesses and brands. So we're going to give some simple steps and tactics that are more strategy based that we would say are most important to Facebook, because that's the pillar place that you can use to then cross post other places. We know Twitter's short, LinkedIn is different, YouTube and these other channels.
Especially blogs, which is another issue for Google.
Exactly. So we're going to break down exactly what it would take to write a higher engaging, higher authority post on Facebook. And it all starts with the headline. Dennis, why is headline so important?
The headline is how you attract their attention, but actually more important than the headline is the image or video that you use. You can have posts on Facebook that are pure text, and you can see some of mine, they work pretty well. But the headline is what summarizes the hook or why people are going to want to pay attention.
So you'll hear things like hook, story, offer, problem, solution, offer. A lot of times the headline is going to be the first thing they see as they scroll. And like you said, the image or the thumbnail could be what's very sticky. So we want to make sure that our headlines are simple. They're clear. They tell you exactly what's happening. So we know that the three types of videos that we make and teach are why, how, and what. And so when you have a why video and you have a story, I've got some examples here. You can use something simple like Susan's victory over back pain. That simple. One word, one sentence, I mean. And if you're breaking down a how, like how to do something, it could be as clear as how to reduce stress with 3 simple steps. So don't overdo, try to be wordy or try to be funny with your headlines. You want your headlines to be as crystal clear as possible. And what is kind of funny about that, when you think of BuzzFeed or you think about the headlines that come out of Florida, a Florida man.
Florida man.
I would actually encourage you to look some of those up because they're so simple, but they're so attention getting, you can't help but read.
If you're watching this, your engagement probably sucks on Facebook. And it could be because of the way you design your posts, which is what we're talking about today, the size of your audience, how you are connecting in terms of the type of content variety that you have. There's one thing I want you to understand as you tie together the different components of a post. This is not some mechanical thing where you're scheduling through Buffer. The key is that you are constantly opening and closing loops. So all of the components of a post work in order. As users are scrolling, it's like they're going down the freeway at 70 miles per hour. You have to capture their attention. They're going to stop on, or they're going to look at the image or the video first and say, is this interesting or not? If it is, then they're going to go up and see the headline and maybe see who it is. And then they're going to read your description. And then maybe they'll click on your link and they're going to, and the piece underneath that piece of content. All of those items have to work in order. And if you don't know how to open and close loops, then you're going to do this in a mechanical way that is not going to drive a user all the way down to the end goal, which is some kind of conversion. You might have high engagement. You're not going to get conversion.
Precisely. The second step in this process would be to always use the client's own words or the customer's own words. So if you're managing on behalf of clients, say chiropractors like we do, you always want to use the words and the language that are being portrayed in the video or with the client, the customer, the end user that's speaking their language. And a way that we do this is we'll go look at our customers' reviews and we'll use the exact verbiage they use. We don't use subluxation or a long technical analysis of the spine to describe what's happening. We use how the person said they felt. We use the language, the own words of that person in the video. And when clients submit us video and we go to write those posts, we actually transcribe their exact words and then optimize the copy from there. So that way you don't have to become a writing expert who's staring at a blank post with nothing to do and nothing to create. And you feel like you have to make up something. Instead, use the video, use your asset, or use the image in your clients and customers' word to write a more effective description of what's happening.
If you're a business owner or an agency owner and you're training up the people on your team to produce content, which is part of why we're doing this open training here, you want to reduce the risk of them screwing things up. So if you allow that content person to say whatever they want, that could get us in trouble, even if it's correct, because it's not what the client wants to see. And maybe they say something that's illegal, or they make a promise, or they say things the wrong way because they don't understand what a chiropractor does versus what a naturopath does. It also makes it easier to use the clients and patients and customers' own words. They're going to say the most interesting things that will resonate, and no one knows better than the customer.
And I've actually made that mistake in the past. I used to try to write everything myself when I was first getting started, because I thought that would be more valuable, as if I just took all the load off, all the work off. And it actually ended up being nearly catastrophic because I had no idea what I was talking about, especially when you're serving a business or a doctor, or you're serving even a restaurant as a marketer or as an entrepreneur, as the manager. Odds are you don't know as much about what's happening in there. So you want to make sure that the most important information is getting displayed and you're not putting anything false out there.
So you're writing for them, not for you. When we had Lane Bryant as a client, which is a plus size clothing store, I would not try to write as what I would think about in terms of bras. I actually interviewed customers and they told us, why do we buy bras from Lane Bryant? Because they don't rip after a few weeks. And when I buy them from these other places, they fall apart, and we are larger women and these things are important. Like, I would never have known that.
Exactly.
So it shows that you care. It's part of customer research, and you're trusting the customer's voice more than what your preferences might be.
Exactly. Also, step 3, tell stories line by line, or give steps line by line, point by point. Don't try to write a long condensed paragraph. Everyone's received a really long text and they're like, oh man, I'm not going to read that, right? Or you look at a paragraph or a document and you see this small condensed text, which is what a lot of people see on their phone. It makes it very hard to read and very hard to understand. So you want to break your stories down line by line if you can, and point by point, which will also help you with some of the points we're going to talk about in the future. But more importantly, it makes the easiest readability for the people watching and reading.
Yep. And some people will try to tell stories that are too long. So when you do it on LinkedIn, it goes on way past what people are going to read. If you can't capture people's attention through the hook or the image or what you have, it doesn't matter. The majority of posts that I see are garbage, and there's no clear reason. It's not clear what the friction is. It's not clear who it's for. And they go on and on. Think about how you can capture someone's attention, like the idea of hook, story, offer, why, how, and what, to be able to get them to the next stage. So let's say the image gets their attention, and then they see a little bit of copy. Let's say it's a video. It's a why, how, or what video. Then that caption or piece of text above the video is only the job of that is only to get people to click on the video and watch the video. This is a super common content mistake I see, where they try to summarize the video. If you summarize the video, they're not going to stop and watch the video. So know that each part has to do its part. Exactly. Think about how they fit together, and they all chain together all the way down to them watching the video, getting to the end of the post, clicking the link you have, whatever it is. Think about what that sequential journey is. Don't try to make the video do everything. Don't try to make the caption do everything. Don't try to put everything in the button, right? The landing page is actually going to do most of the work.
The next step would be to always leverage the highest authority. So, Dennis, there are a couple components of authority that obviously you're going to break down the best. But when it comes to being a small business or a small a small brand or just a personal brand that you're managing, there's different nuances to use, especially when local businesses are working together. So what are those components of authority and how can they be used in a post?
There's 3 components of authority. But before we go into the detail of that, the reason why authority is important is because it creates interestingness. It creates trust. There's a lot of people saying a lot of things, and you're trying to stand out among a lot of other people selling the same products and services. Authority is how you stand out. There's 3 components. There's who is saying it. Is it someone who's trustworthy that your customers respect? So when you play Inception, you're trying to talk to the people that your customers respect and what they have to say, right? Instead of what you're trying to say directly to that customer. There's where it's being said. Is it being said on stage, on the news, in someone's bathroom? So there are different places that have higher or lower authority. Then there's what is being said. Is it helpful? Is it interesting? Is it on topic? So you might see, for example, I'll be on TV. That's high authority. And I'm with someone who's important, who's interviewing me, but they're asking me about, how I grew up as a kid and didn't speak English as my first language. Well, that doesn't help us drive more sales and whatever I'm selling. But these other 2 components are high authority and the other one's not. So grade out of 10 points on each of these. If you have a content library, a list of all your pieces of content, you'll have the ones that are higher authority. And the higher authority ones generally are the ones you're going to put more effort into. You're going to cross post more. You're going to focus on those items because they have more of the seed that you can work with.
And authority can be leveraged in all channels, not just Facebook, but with Facebook especially, which is a group of communities. There's private groups and there's leaders. It's extremely critical. You think of Cameo, for example. If you own a donut shop and you have Chuck Norris, he loves, my donuts or something like that because you have him do a cameo. You have your who really solid. And if he was actually in your shop, you have your where like really, really solid. But what actually needs to happen next? What are you going to have a Chuck Norris discount? Like how are you going to leverage authority for a local business if they're trying to trying to tweak their caption to fit the authority? One of the ideas that Sean Dill teaches and something that we use at Cairo Revenue is a benevolence campaign where businesses will work with local businesses. And so they'll be leveraging the owners of those businesses who are the most authoritative to those communities, where a chiropractor might work with a yoga studio, and together they'll make content for each other's audiences.
I've hired Chuck Norris 3 times on Cameo. It was $200 and I had him wish, I think, happy birthday or congratulations on opening a business. There's a lot of ways that you can tie in authority. We bought a Cameo for like $100 for the head coach of the professional football team in Phoenix, the Cardinals, and asked him, what would you do if you're a small business and things are shut down and you're trying to get more customers?
Wow.
And we shared his feedback to all the people in Phoenix, and they trusted him. You're leveraging someone else's trust. And the beauty is when they see that head coach and they know that person, they know the teams, they're loyal already, you're leveraging that loyalty, that's driving more sales and awareness for A1, who is Tommy Mello. He's the largest home services business, and people are getting their garage doors changed and fixed because they see that Tommy has a relationship with the head coach and he doesn't, but we just bought that Cameo for $100. I'm not saying use Cameo, but leverage other people in your community that you can interview, even if you don't have a direct relationship. That creates something called implied endorsement.
Exactly. What other businesses can you tag, or people? What places can you tag? And the greatest thing is Facebook gives you the options to actually do this. You can tag locations, you can tag pages, and you can tag people. So, and when you do that, you're creating that implied endorsement, like Dennis said, which is also going to prompt them to engage on your post as well, to say thank you, to comment back. And when you're telling stories, especially, and people are commenting under how impactful it is to be a part of it, or you're saying thank you and somebody's commenting on there, you don't want to miss that moment for authority. Oftentimes we see small businesses maybe share just like a bland testimonial, and it doesn't get any reach or any engagement because it doesn't actually pull the emotion or the effect of what happened. So make sure you're leveraging authority. The next step would be to avoid using filler words and avoid using passive voice. One of Dennis's top blogs and most referred pieces of information that we use is avoiding passive voice. So I think you would be able to break that down the best as well. What is passive voice and how would you avoid it in your copy as well?
Here's an example of passive voice. The donut was eaten. Who ate the donut?
Mm,
The task was completed. Who completed the task?
no idea.
Look, if you're in politics and you want to avoid any kind of accountability, then you hide the doer, right? The deed was done. Such and such wasn't done. By who? Right? That whenever you hear something like the donut was eaten, the question is, by who? Right? So don't do that. If you want to drive sales, if you're in marketing because you want to drive sales of a product and service, you need to follow what you learned in 5th grade English, which is subject, verb, direct object. Who's doing it? What are they doing? And who are they doing it to, or what are they doing with that, right? Simple sentences. Most people, they have run-ons. Ernest Hemingway is a fantastic author because he writes in 7th grade English. Learn how to write simply. Just like Tristan said, one sentence, sentences, get straight to the point. Don't use a lot of filler words. Don't use a ton of adjectives. Get straight to the point. And the faster, the more you can remove those adjectives and prepositions and other sorts of phrases, the faster your copy moves and the more interesting it is because you don't have these super long sentences.
Exactly. So you think about a movie, for example, maybe a 2 or 3 hour movie like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. They still have 2-minute ads, 1-minute ads that can summarize almost the entire movie, that make you so excited that you're going to go pay to go watch that movie and pay the $30 for the popcorn and sit there for 3 hours, because they were able to bring everything into its simplest piece of the message. When you avoid those filler words, and especially when you avoid passive voice, you're actually raising the standard of what you're talking about, because you're making it clear who you're talking to or who you're not talking to as well. And you're making it clear the points that you're trying to get across, so they're not guessing or wondering, because they use the phrase in sales that a confused mind doesn't buy. Well, a confused mind isn't going to keep reading either. They're confused. And most people, especially on social media, aren't going there to learn new things or new words. So you want to make sure that these pieces are entertaining. Now, the next thing you can use is actually a tool. I'm going to share my screen to show you guys how I use it to be able to put these 3 or 4 first points that we have into effect. And it's called readable.com. So I'm going to share my screen here. Now, you can see some of the posts that I've broken down here. So we put them as one line, like we said, and we keep them pretty simple. You can look at the engagement on here. 15 likes, 15 comments. Yeah. It's a profile.
Make your font bigger.
You can see here the sidelines. That's where most people place themselves. Now, I go to readable.com and I measure the test. And by the way, we're not endorsed by Readable or anything like this, because when you think of politics or anything else, what they've found is the people who win the elections are the ones who speak the simplest at a 3rd grade level. And that when you look at previous losers, they were almost always speaking at a higher level than people could understand. And that might sound complex or overwhelming to some people. But if you look at this post, yeah, there are a few errors, but I try to keep it at a 3rd to 5th grade level. I won't go higher than a 5th grade level. And my first edition of a lot of posts are sometimes way higher than a 5th grade level. I have long run-on sentences, which it warns you about. And I usually start off with just a paragraph instead of line by line. So this is a tool that you can use, and there's other tools and things like that to check yourself, because we don't usually have somebody to read, like an expert like Dennis Yu, to say, well, this is a little bit too long, or this isn't going to be effective.
And you can tell with your engagement. You can tell with the kind of comments people are giving if your posts are doing well. What we're talking about is more advanced content strategy. There are people that just do posting like VAs, and it's mechanical, and tools do that. Mid-level is actually understanding how to use content to drive engagement, doing lightweight community management. And then above that is advanced, where we have content strategy, where you understand and you can speak in the voice of the customer, and you can drive sales, and you can optimize because you can see the stats, not just of your post performance there. I think, what did you have, like 15?
That was one of them. This one's 151 likes, 37
Fantastic.
comments.
So if you don't understand why some posts are doing better than others, how are you going to continue to craft new posts?
That's such a good question for everyone to ask themselves. And this is something that if you're not managing a brand at this moment, or not managing a business's social media or your own pages
Mhm.
or accounts or ad accounts or running ads or doing any of the other things we talk about at Digital CEO, then you can start to test this with your own posts. You can start
Mhm.
to pull this in, go to your timeline and pull things out. You can see here again, 3.7 average long sentence in the beginning, but this is one of my most engaged posts in the past couple
Mhm.
weeks. And it's simple, but it covers some of the tactics that we talked about, breaking things line by line, making them easier to read, checking their readability to make sure that it's simple, avoiding filler words, using authoritative things. Like a lot of times even analogies can bring authority. Like if you said Albert Einstein once said blank, right?
Mhm.
It's somewhere in your post, you're associating the thing that you're saying with that high authority. So I use readable.com. Now the last 3 points here are kind of summarized into one. We talk about making
Mhm.
multiple types of content, why, how, and what videos. It's the simplest way to describe them. And we want to make sure that we're always ending our posts with something for the customer to do or understand or be clear about. And in a why video, which is often stories,
Mhm.
we always have an XYZ statement. Could you give an example of one?
I help chiropractors drive more sales through digital marketing processes. That's X, Y, and Z. Who are you reaching? What are you doing for them? And how are you doing it?
And we notice we don't start the post with that, we end the post with that. And a chiropractor themselves could say, I'm Dr. Tristan, and I help people feel better drug free. We're here to help with a little heart.
Mhm.
At the end of why content, you always kind of want to clarify, since why videos are not about you, they're about the stories that they're telling, they're about the image and the actual effect of what's happening. You always want to leave a small tagline or small note that clarifies who is talking to the customer and maybe what they could do next or what they could learn from. And so oftentimes people put like, comment, share, or a bunch of hashtags. You don't want to finish your post with that.
Nope. No hashtags on Facebook.
None.
That reveals you as an ad. Rarely should you have a call to action that's related to buying, even if it's a what, because then it's revealing you as an ad. You want to talk to someone as if they're a friend or a friend of a friend. So you might ask them a question instead of becoming the authority. You say, what do you think about this? Or you tell a story that's happened in your life because you're tired from working out and you say, what is your best remedy if your muscles are sore? What do you think? As a
Exactly.
friend. And then you get high engagement. That gives you the reach. Your goal primarily is to get engagement with the customers that you actually want to reach. So you don't just post cat photos. And you want to talk about the topics, to introduce the topics that will eventually lead to a sale.
Precisely. And one of the more recent popular posts that I've had was just using Facebook's tool looking for recommendations. And I asked a simple question. I've been seeing more people do it because Facebook prioritizes it as looking for help. And all my question was how to be a better listener. And I got a ridiculous amount of engagement and help. So those are tools. Those are little things. Take advantage of the features that Facebook has. Now with the how video, where you're demonstrating something, where you're giving steps, where you're breaking down the process, it's always good to have more information or come back and give more information later. So you don't always want to just drop links to another blog, go check it out here and put one line on Facebook. You want to actually share in the video 3 steps to get rid of low back pain or stress. You want to give the value, but then if there is more, you would definitely want to leave something in the comments, like a link to the blog on your website that breaks it down even further and shows images, or a link to a colleague's blog or somebody else with authority that you know is going to provide more value in that post. Because if people are clicking into the comments, they're engaging with that link, or they're replying to it, that's only going to boost that post up even more.
The easiest way to make it not look like you're selling, because most of the how posts and videos I see are actually still selling. They say it's how, it's actually what, is you show gratitude. You leverage someone else's blog. For example, I'll say, I'm so honored that Sean Dill wrote this post about how to do Facebook ads, right? And in that post, it's got Tristan and me talking about how to do Facebook ads. So that way it doesn't look like direct selling. Try to avoid anything that looks like direct selling. Go line by line through your post to see anything that looks like you are a commercial, and that will get rid of half of the problems that most people have.
And when it comes to the what posts, when it comes to the call to action, a lot of people have various opinions about it. We've talked about being crystal clear with the headline, being crystal clear with the copy, who you're speaking to, the video. Everything seems so clear, but then people get confused when it comes to the call to action, right? Some people don't want to be so blunt of, buy now, only 5 spots left. But some people will also confuse it and break all these other rules by saying, well, if you click now and this happens and this happens and this happens, and they muddy up their call to action. How would you say the best way to provide a call to action is for actual what videos? Is it just the link in the post? Is it the invitation and how you word it? Or is it being that direct? What do you think?
That's not the way to think about it. You have to earn the trust of that user. And when they believe you, largely because you've shown empathy, you've shown that you care about somebody, you've said thank you to someone else, you've demonstrated authority along the way so that you know what you're talking about, and there's other people that you're with, and it's in a high authority location, different combinations of these 3 components of authority that build trust, then you can simply say, I'm Dr. Tristan, and I would love to help you or anyone else who's suffering from migraines, right? Or my office is open every day during the pandemic. Come on in. This is our phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Or I've created this guide. I know we've talked about 3 of the things that don't work on migraines. I've got 7 more, and I would love to share them with you. Give me your email address, and here's the rest of, whatever it is, right? It's easy to have the call to action. There's no magic formula on the call to action. The point is, if you deliver trust, if you build that trust first, then it's easy. Right? Think about a friend that's made a recommendation for a nice restaurant in Las Vegas, right? To take your girl to. Now, was there a particular way that he made that recommendation?
No.
It didn't matter. What mattered was that he had the trust.
Exactly.
So that when he said, you should go to this restaurant, you're like, yep, I'm going there.
Exactly. And that was the main point, that I knew that's exactly where you were going to go, because so many people will confuse themselves by trying to make everything so perfect and forget that all of these steps that we just broke down are about creating trust, creating community, and providing value. If you're a local business, a small business, or a small brand, your most valuable asset, I love when Sean says this, your most valuable asset is the people of which you have influence over. Your community, that local group that trusts you with their health, if you're a dentist, with their teeth, if you're an optometrist, with their eyes, or say you're a restaurant for the date that they want to go on, like when a buddy suggests a place to go in Las Vegas. And so when we break down all of these, the last point is keeping the end in mind, that you want the user to get so much value, so much trust from each step of these working together, from the image or the thumbnail of the video, to the headline, to the actual simple words and the structure of them, to how easy it is to read, and finally those call to actions that they're happy to be there, to like, to comment, to share, all without you asking. And when you are ready to make an ask, like, I would love to help you, keeping it that simple, here's our number, you'd be surprised how many more people would take you up on that offer versus trying to convince them.
Right. And the community does the work for you. And if you are someone who's posting on behalf of a client, learn to have the empathy so you can speak in their language. And as you're posting, you're going to see feedback from some of the same people. They'll be top fans. Engage with them. They will do the selling for you. So you can say, we've got a special offer, this massage plus exam for $149. And other people will jump in and say, oh, this is fantastic. This is great. You guys should definitely do it. They'll tag friends of theirs. Watch for that, because that's what's going to create the selling. If you're a business owner and you're watching, or maybe you're trying to post yourself, or you're monitoring someone else who's doing this posting for you, monitor to see how the engagement flows over time and whether we are engaging with those people that are helping us do the selling. When we do a good job and engage with our community, they're going to do all the work for us.
I love it.
So it's not about a trick on you need to post once per day, or
4 times per day.
Your call to action needs to have exactly 10 words, or use this particular phrase. Those are all mechanical tricks. Then you're becoming a pickup artist instead of a long-term player.
I love it. So these are the publishing basics, the easy caption writing tactics for Facebook specifically for small brands and businesses. And we know that these same strategies will translate into other areas and other channels and how you make content. So if you have any questions about which channel we should share next, not just Facebook, maybe how to do blogs specifically or change your copy on TikTok and Twitter, then just comment on this video here in YouTube or any of the places that we've cross-posted it to, and we'll add it to the list. We'll make sure we break down every single one of those components because we are all digital CEOs, entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. We all work from the laptop now, and we all have the responsibility to do our best, especially when it comes to guiding people through important information and building authority. Dennis, you got anything?
Now that you know about Facebook publishing one-on-one, think about 101, not one-on-one. Think about what the other pieces are you need to be able to connect together to be a powerful marketer and driver of sales. You need to also learn in other episodes, how do you boost that post once it's there? How do you assemble these posts into an overall content strategy, the 3x3 in the topic wheel? You need to learn how to take that content and cross-post it to the blog using the various tools that we have, or Twitter, or Instagram, or TikTok. You need to learn how do you tweak the feedback that you're getting from other people and turn that into more content. You need to learn how to analyze post performance. And if you're driving people to a website, did that drive more sales? You could have posts that do really well in terms of engagement, but drive no sales, and vice versa. So to be a well-rounded digital marketer, go beyond just this session on publishing on Facebook and understand the other pieces that are connected to publishing successfully on Facebook.
All right, guys, we'll see you in the next episode. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment on any of Digital CEO's videos, and Dennis, myself, or our team will get back to you. See you in the next one.